Sunnydale was a town where summer meant long, sun-drenched days and the sweet scent of barbecue smoke in the air. Children's laughter echoed through the streets as they chased fireflies at dusk. Neighbors gathered on front porches sharing stories and lemonade. The elderly sat beneath the shade of ancient oak trees watching the world go by. Summer in Sunnydale was a time for relaxation and connection. The heart of Sunnydale was its community. But this summer, a change was in the air.
The predicted temperatures are unlike anything Sunnydale has experienced before. The potential for danger is very real.
Miss Clara Johnson, Sunnydale's dedicated emergency management director, felt a familiar knot of worry tightening in her chest as she studied the weather reports. Heat waves were not uncommon, but this one was different. Miss Johnson had always taken her responsibility to protect Sunnydale very seriously. She knew that a heat wave of this magnitude could have severe consequences, especially for the elderly, young children, and those with pre-existing health conditions. Her mind raced considering the potential dangers: heat stroke, dehydration, power outages. Preparation was paramount. Immediately, Miss Johnson reached for her phone. She needed to rally her team. They had prepared for various emergencies in the past, but this heat wave presented a unique set of challenges. The well-being of their entire community was at stake. Miss Johnson understood that time was of the essence. She knew that informing and preparing the residents of Sunnydale was crucial. The sooner they could equip their community with the knowledge and resources to combat the heat, the safer everyone would be. The news of the impending heat wave spread through Sunnydale like wildfire. It was the main topic of conversation at the local diner, the post office, and even during the weekly bingo game at the community center. A palpable sense of urgency replaced the usual laid-back summer atmosphere. As the reality of the situation sunk in, a spirit of resilience emerged in the townspeople. Neighbors started checking in on one another, particularly the elderly and those living alone. Offers to help with groceries, errands, or simply provide company during the hottest hours of the day became commonplace.
Staying hydrated, recognizing the signs of heat exhaustion, and being mindful of vulnerable neighbors is crucial.
Miss Johnson, a pillar of strength and composure, addressed the town through local news channels and radio broadcasts. Despite the looming threat, the spirit of unity and care that defined Sunnydale shone through. The town hall, usually a place for quiet council meetings, was abuzz with activity. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the town square, residents of Sunnydale flocked towards the building. The air hummed with a mixture of apprehension and determination. Inside the hall, Miss Johnson and her team, including the ever-reliable volunteer, Mr. Isaac, were making final preparations for the community meeting. Stacks of pamphlets containing heat safety tips lay on tables alongside jugs of iced water and paper fans. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of purpose.
This meeting is about providing our friends and neighbors with the knowledge and tools to navigate this extraordinary heat wave safely.
Mr. Isaac, known for his calm demeanor and unwavering dedication to his community, adjusted the microphone on the podium. He understood the importance of this meeting. As the last rays of sunlight streamed through the windows, the hall fell silent. All eyes turned towards Miss Johnson as she stepped up to the podium, ready to address her community and face the challenge ahead, united.
My friends, neighbors, we are facing a challenge unlike any we've seen before. This heat wave is not something to be taken lightly. It's a threat to our health, our well-being, and our way of life.
A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. The gravity of the situation was evident on every face.
However, we are a community known for our resilience, our compassion, and our unwavering support for one another.
Mr. Isaac, standing beside Miss Johnson, nodded in agreement, his gaze sweeping over the faces before him. He saw fear, yes, but he also saw courage, a quiet determination to protect their loved ones and their town. He knew that Sunnydale was not a community that would back down from a challenge.
We are here tonight to equip ourselves with the knowledge, the resources, and the spirit to face this heat wave head-on. We will emerge from this stronger and more united than ever before.
Her words resonated through the hall, instilling a sense of hope and purpose in the hearts of the people of Sunnydale. Miss Johnson, a natural leader, outlined the town's comprehensive plan to combat the heat wave. She spoke about setting up cooling centers at strategic locations, the community center, the library, and even the high school gymnasium. These centers would provide air-conditioned refuge, particularly for the elderly and families with young children.
Ensuring an uninterrupted supply of essential resources is crucial. Plans are underway to stockpile bottled water, electrolyte drinks, and first aid supplies. Local grocery stores have been contacted to ensure a steady supply of fresh produce and other necessities, even in the event of power outages.
The plan was comprehensive, covering everything from communication strategies to emergency response protocols. But even with the best-laid plans, Miss Johnson knew that the success of their efforts would depend on the collective will and active participation of the entire community. Recognizing the importance of awareness, Miss Johnson stressed the need to educate residents about the dangers of heat stroke and heat exhaustion. She explained the common symptoms to watch out for: dizziness, nausea, headaches, and rapid heartbeat. She urged everyone to stay hydrated and avoid strenuous outdoor activities during the hottest part of the day.
Mr. Isaac, a strong advocate for community preparedness, volunteered to lead workshops on first aid and heat safety. He believed that equipping people with practical knowledge and skills was crucial to preventing heat-related illnesses and ensuring everyone's well-being.
The town's communication channels went into overdrive. Flyers with heat safety tips were distributed through newspapers and local businesses. The radio station aired public service announcements, and social media pages were flooded with information and updates.
Knowledge, Miss Johnson believed, was their most powerful weapon against this invisible threat. Miss Johnson, her voice filled with concern, addressed a crucial aspect of their plan: caring for the town's most vulnerable residents. The elderly, those living alone, and individuals with pre-existing health conditions were particularly susceptible to the dangers of extreme heat.
She proposed a buddy system, where volunteers would be paired with vulnerable residents to check in on them regularly, ensuring they had access to cool environments, hydration, and any necessary assistance. A dedicated hotline was set up for residents to report any concerns or request help.
Mr. Isaac, his heart always open to those in need, immediately signed up for the buddy system. He knew that even a simple phone call or a quick visit could make a world of difference to someone struggling in the oppressive heat.
The community embraced the initiative wholeheartedly. Students volunteered to deliver groceries and run errands for the elderly. Neighbors offered their air-conditioned homes as temporary shelters.
The community meeting had ignited a spark of volunteerism in the hearts of the townspeople. The air buzzed with a sense of purpose and collective action. People understood that the task ahead was daunting, but they were determined to face it together.
A registration desk was set up at the back of the hall, manned by Miss Johnson's tireless assistant, Emily. A steady stream of residents lined up, eager to offer their time, skills, and resources to the effort.
Mr. Isaac, a natural leader, found himself surrounded by a group of eager volunteers. He listened patiently to their ideas and suggestions, his mind working swiftly to organize them into effective teams.
The spirit of volunteerism was contagious. Sunnydale was coming together as one. Mr. Isaac, known for his calm demeanor and thoughtful words, addressed the room, his voice carrying a quiet strength that commanded attention. He spoke about the importance of unity, of neighbor helping neighbor, and of facing this challenge with courage and compassion.
This heat wave, he said, will test our limits, but it will also reveal the true spirit of our community. Let's show everyone what Sunnydale is made of. Let's show them that even in the face of adversity, we stand together, stronger than ever.
His words resonated deeply with the volunteers. They had seen firsthand the impact of his dedication and selflessness over the years. And now, as Sunnydale braced itself for the scorching days ahead, his leadership was needed more than ever. The usually tranquil rhythm of life in Sunnydale was replaced by a flurry of activity, a collective mobilization driven by a shared sense of purpose. The impending heat wave had become a catalyst, transforming the town into a hive of preparation and collaboration. On every street corner, volunteers could be seen distributing flyers, offering safety tips, and assisting elderly residents with errands. The local hardware store sold out of fans and portable air conditioners, while grocery stores struggled to keep bottled water in stock. Sunnydale, once a picture of idyllic summer tranquility, was now a town on high alert, its residents united in their determination to face the heat wave head-on. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a relentless heat upon Sunnydale, Mr. Isaac found himself at the town's central park, overseeing the transformation of the usually serene green space into a temporary haven. Large shade canopies, donated by local businesses, were erected to provide relief from the scorching sun. Volunteers unloaded trucks filled with pallets of bottled water, carefully stacking them in the shade. Others arranged rows of folding chairs and tables, creating a makeshift rest area. Mr. Isaac, a man who believed in leading by example, picked up a shovel and joined a group of volunteers digging a shallow trench to divert rainwater away from the temporary shelter. Every action, no matter how small, contributed to their collective effort. As he worked, he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Sunnydale was facing this challenge with courage, resilience, and an unwavering spirit of community. Despite the flurry of activity and the town's meticulous preparations, an undercurrent of anxiety ran through Sunnydale. The heat was relentless, each passing day hotter than the last, and the ever-present threat of the heat wave weighed heavily on everyone's minds. The local news, broadcast on radio and television, became a constant source of information and, at times, apprehension. Weather reports tracked the heat wave's progress, offering little solace from the scorching temperatures that were predicted to last for days, perhaps even weeks. Evenings brought a temporary respite from the oppressive heat, but the anxiety lingered. But amidst the uncertainty and apprehension, the spirit of Sunnydale remained unbroken, fueled by a shared hope and a deep-rooted belief in the power of community. The Sunnydale Town Hall, usually a place of quiet civic duty, had transformed into a sanctuary of shared concern. As the last rays of the setting sun cast long shadows across the town square, the hall hummed with the murmur of hundreds of voices. Every seat was filled and people stood along the walls, their faces reflecting a mixture of apprehension and determination.
The air, thick with anticipation, carried the scent of nervous perspiration and the faint aroma of lavender, a subtle attempt by someone to infuse a sense of calm into the charged atmosphere.
A large screen at the front of the hall displayed the words, "Sunnydale Strong," a simple message that resonated deeply with the anxious crowd. Mr. Isaac, standing at the edge of the stage, surveyed the faces before him. He saw fear, yes, but he also saw courage, resilience, and a deep-seated sense of community that warmed his heart. These were his neighbors, his friends, the people he had dedicated his life to serving.
As Miss Johnson stepped up to the podium, a hush fell over the crowd.
My friends, my neighbors. We are here tonight facing an unprecedented challenge. This heatwave is not like those we've weathered before. It has the potential to impact every single one of us.
A wave of unease rippled through the crowd. The gravity of her words, spoken with such honesty and directness, was undeniable. But Miss Johnson, a seasoned leader, knew that instilling fear would serve no purpose. She needed to strike a balance between caution and hope.
However, we are not powerless. We have faced challenges before, and we have emerged stronger. We are a community that looks out for one another, and that is our greatest strength.
Her words, carefully chosen, resonated with the audience. They were in this together, and together they would find a way through. Miss Johnson, a firm believer in the power of knowledge, transitioned into a detailed explanation of the dangers posed by extreme heat. She spoke about heat stroke, describing its symptoms, confusion, dizziness, rapid heartbeat, and emphasizing the importance of seeking immediate medical attention should anyone exhibit these signs.
She then moved on to heat exhaustion, a less severe but equally concerning condition. She explained the importance of staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water and electrolyte-rich fluids, and avoiding sugary drinks that could exacerbate dehydration.
Remember, she urged, her gaze sweeping over the attentive faces, even if you feel fine, your neighbors might not. Check on the elderly, those living alone, and families with young children. A simple act of kindness can make a world of difference.
Her words, practical and actionable, provided the audience with a sense of agency. Knowledge, she reminded them, was their most potent weapon against this invisible enemy.
Know you've been a good friend, and that's in the thick and thin. And I know it's
We are not individuals facing this challenge alone. We are a network of neighbors, friends, and families, and we will get through this together as we always have.
Miss Johnson, her voice filled with warmth, shifted the focus of her address to the very heart of Sunnydale, its strong sense of community. She spoke about the importance of checking in on one another, particularly the elderly and vulnerable, offering assistance with groceries, errands, or simply a cool place to escape the oppressive heat. She reminded them that even a friendly phone call or a visit on a sweltering afternoon could make a world of difference. Mr. Isaac, standing at the edge of the stage, watched as a wave of nods and murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. He knew that Miss Johnson's words were not empty platitudes but a reflection of the very essence of Sunnydale. This was a town where people genuinely cared for one another. The sense of shared responsibility, of collective action for the greater good, permeated the hall. It was a powerful reminder that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit, when united, had the strength to overcome any obstacle. As Miss Johnson concluded her address, a wave of applause filled the hall. The fear and anxiety that had hung heavy in the air just moments ago seemed to dissipate, replaced by a sense of purpose and a renewed belief in their collective strength. Mr. Isaac, sensing an opportunity to further solidify the community's resolve, stepped forward. His calm demeanor and reassuring presence had a calming effect on the audience. He was a familiar face, a symbol of stability in uncertain times. "I know many of you are worried," he began, his voice carrying a quiet strength that resonated through the hall. "And rightfully so. This heat wave is unlike anything we've seen before. But I want to assure you, we are prepared." He spoke about the town's preparations, the cooling centers, the emergency response teams, the stockpiles of water and supplies. But more importantly, he spoke about the indomitable spirit of their community, their willingness to help one another, to stand together in the face of adversity. The floor was then opened for questions, and a forest of hands shot up. Concerns ranged from practical matters like power outages and water conservation to more personal anxieties about caring for elderly parents and young children. Mr. Isaac, a master of logistics and a calming presence, addressed each question with patience and empathy. He offered practical solutions, drawing upon his years of experience as a volunteer firefighter and his intimate knowledge of the town's resources. When a young mother expressed concern about keeping her baby cool during the heat wave, Mr. Isaac suggested placing a bowl of ice water in front of a fan to create a makeshift air conditioner. He then shared a tip about filling a spray bottle with cool water and misting her baby's skin to provide relief from the heat. With each question answered, each concern addressed, a sense of calm seemed to settle over the room. They were not facing this challenge blindly, but with a plan, with resources, and most importantly, with each other.
Remember, each and every one of us has a role to play in ensuring the safety and well-being of our community.
She spoke about the power of small acts of kindness, checking on a neighbor, sharing a bottle of water, offering a helping hand. These seemingly insignificant gestures, when multiplied across their community, had the power to make a real difference.
Let us face this challenge with courage, compassion, and an unwavering belief in the strength of our community. We are Sunnydale, and we will weather this storm together.
Her words, spoken from the heart, resonated deeply with the audience. They were not just empty platitudes, but a call to action, a reminder that they were all in this together, and that their collective strength lay in their unity and shared responsibility. As the meeting adjourned, a palpable shift in the atmosphere was evident. The initial fear and uncertainty had given way to a sense of purpose, a shared determination to face the heat wave head-on.
Groups of neighbors huddled together, discussing the information shared, exchanging phone numbers, and making plans to check on one another in the coming days. The spirit of community, ignited by shared adversity, burned brightly in the hearts of the people of Sunnydale.
Mr. Isaac, his heart warmed by the sight of his community coming together, stood by the exit, offering words of encouragement and reassurance to those who passed by. He knew that the days ahead would be challenging, but he also knew that Sunnydale was ready. As the last of the residents dispersed into the night, Mr. Isaac stood alone for a moment, gazing up at the star-filled sky. A sense of peace settled over him. They had a plan, they had each other, and they had the unwavering spirit of Sunnydale on their side. As the sun rose on Sunnydale, it cast an eerie orange glow across the town, a harbinger of the sweltering day to come. The air, thick and heavy, hung with an oppressive stillness. Even the birdsong, usually a cheerful symphony at dawn, was noticeably absent. The heat wave had arrived. The usually bustling streets were eerily quiet. Gone were the children chasing after ice cream trucks and the groups of friends gathering for morning coffee on their porches. The oppressive heat had driven everyone indoors, seeking refuge behind closed curtains and whirring fans.
Ms. Johnson, her brow furrowed with concern, monitored the rising temperatures on a large digital thermometer mounted in her office at the town hall. The numbers climbed steadily, each degree a stark reminder of the invisible threat bearing down on Sunnydale.
The heat wave was not just a weather event, it was a test of endurance, a challenge that pushed the limits of human resilience. But Miss Johnson, ever the pragmatic leader, was determined to guide her community through this crisis with the same calm resolve she had displayed in countless emergencies before. As the day wore on, the temperature in Sunnydale climbed relentlessly, pushing past previous records. The air shimmered with heat, and the asphalt streets softened under the relentless sun. The town, however, was not defeated. It was adapting.
The cooling centers, strategically located throughout the town, swung open their doors, offering air-conditioned refuge from the oppressive heat. Families arrived, seeking solace from the scorching sun, their faces etched with relief as they stepped into the cool interiors.
Volunteers, their faces beaded with sweat, but their spirits undeterred, fanned out across the town, armed with bottles of water, sunscreen, and a mission to check on the elderly and vulnerable. They went door to door, offering assistance, a friendly face, and a reminder that no one was facing this heat wave alone.
Sunnydale, faced with an unprecedented challenge, had mobilized. The spirit of community, of shared responsibility and unwavering support, was the town's most potent weapon against this invisible enemy.
Mr. Isaac, his brow damp with perspiration, navigated the sweltering streets of Sunnydale. His pickup truck, laden with coolers, was essential for those struggling in the heat.
His first stop was Mrs. Peterson's house. He found her on her porch swing, looking unwell. "Don't worry, Mrs. Peterson," Mr. Isaac said, helping her inside. "I'm here now. We'll get you cooled down in no time." As Mrs. Peterson sipped the cool water, gratitude washed over her face.
Mr. Isaac knew this was just the beginning of a long, hot week, but he was ready. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a relentless heat upon Sunnydale, the town's resilience shone through. The spirit of community, of shared responsibility and unwavering support was evident in every corner of the town. At the community center, volunteers set up a makeshift movie theater, their laughter echoing through the cool, darkened hall as children escaped the heat and immersed themselves in the adventures unfolding on the screen. At the senior center, groups of elderly residents gathered, sharing stories, playing cards, and enjoying the air-conditioned comfort, their usual routines disrupted but their spirits unbroken. Even the town's four-legged residents were not forgotten. At the Sunnydale Animal Shelter, volunteers set up kiddie pools filled with cool water, offering respite to the dogs panting in the heat, their tails wagging in gratitude. Sunnydale, faced with an unprecedented challenge, had found its rhythm, adapting, supporting, and enduring. The heat wave had tested their limits, but it had also revealed the extraordinary strength and compassion that lay at the heart of their community. The heat wave revealed the inherent goodness within Sunnydale. Everyday heroes emerged, weaving a safety net for the vulnerable. 10-year-old Emily offered popsicles to overheated neighbors. Her generosity brought smiles and reaffirmed faith in the younger generation. Mr. Henderson opened his store for cool air and free water. The heat wave melted barriers, revealing empathy and community spirit. In the heat wave, Sunnydale learned the power of small acts of kindness. A shared smile, a helping hand, a few words of encouragement, lifelines in a crisis.
Observing my community, I realized our strength lay in quiet compassion. Each small act created a ripple effect, touching countless lives.
Neighbors checked on each other, left notes, offered to pick up groceries, or simply shared a pitcher of iced tea on a hot day. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across Sunnydale, the town exhaled a collective sigh of relief. The heat of the day, while still oppressive, had lost its sharp edge. In the town square, a sense of community was palpable. Families emerged from their homes, drawn together by an unspoken need for connection. Children, their laughter echoing through the square, chased fireflies in the fading light. Under a large oak tree, musicians played, their melodies a soothing balm for weary souls. The heat wave had forged a deeper connection among the residents of Sunnydale. As darkness descended, Sunnydale stood as a beacon of resilience and unity. The relentless heat wave reached its zenith on the third day. The sun beat down on Sunnydale, testing human endurance. The temperature soared past 100 degrees, shattering records. Asphalt streets shimmered like mirages. Leaves drooped, dulled to a dusty olive. The power grid flickered, strained by constant demand. Rolling blackouts plunged neighborhoods into darkness. Streets were eerily quiet. Only sirens and cicadas heard. Yet Sunnydale's spirit remained unbroken, weathering the storm together. Section 1. The Unseen Toll. As the heat wave tightened its grip on Sunnydale, a palpable tension settled over the town. The initial spirit of resilience, fueled by community meetings and volunteer efforts, began to waver under the relentless onslaught of scorching temperatures. The invisible enemy, it seemed, was taking its toll. The relentless heat seeped into homes, turning once familiar spaces into sweltering ovens. Sleep became a luxury, replaced by restless nights spent tossing and turning, seeking solace from the oppressive heat. Tempers flared as patience wore thin, strained by the constant discomfort. Even the most resilient among them, those who had initially met the heat wave with a stoic determination, began to show signs of fatigue. The elderly, their bodies less able to regulate temperature, suffered in silence, their usual routines disrupted by the oppressive heat. The invisible enemy, it seemed, was insidious, chipping away at their reserves of strength and resilience, threatening to unravel the very fabric of their community. Section 2. A Cry for Help. The insistent ringing of the telephone pierced the stifling silence of Miss Johnson's office. She reached for the receiver, her hand trembling slightly, her mind already racing with a sense of foreboding.
Miss Johnson, it's Sarah Miller, from down on Elm Street. It's Mrs. Peterson. She's not responding, and her skin is burning hot. I don't know what to do.
A wave of adrenaline surged through Miss Johnson's body, jolting her into action. Mrs. Peterson, the elderly widow who lived alone, had been on their list of vulnerable residents. Despite their best efforts, despite the daily check-ins and the offers of assistance, the heat wave had breached their defenses.
Sarah, I need you to stay calm. We're on our way.
Miss Johnson said, her voice firm and reassuring, even as her mind raced ahead, calculating distances, dispatching emergency services. Mr. Isaac sat in his living room, a glass of iced tea sweating on the coffee table before him, his gaze fixed on the television screen. The local news played in the background, the reporter's voice a droning monotone against the backdrop of images showcasing the heat wave's relentless grip on Sunnydale. He had spent the morning making his rounds, checking on elderly neighbors, delivering water bottles, offering a kind word and a reassuring presence. But the heat, even for someone accustomed to battling blazes, was taking its toll. A bead of sweat trickled down his temple as he listened to the reporter list the day's heat-related casualties. The phone rang, shattering the silence. Mr. Isaac reached for it, his heart pounding in his chest. It was Miss Johnson, her voice urgent, her words a blur as she described the situation at Mrs. Peterson's house.
"I'm on my way," Mr. Isaac said, his voice firm, his resolve unwavering. He knew that every second counted. Heat stroke, he knew, was a silent killer, and he refused to let it claim another life in his town.
The siren wailed, a piercing sound that sliced through the oppressive stillness of the afternoon. Miss Johnson, her knuckles white as she gripped the steering wheel, maneuvered her car through the deserted streets of Sunnydale, her heart pounding in unison with the siren's insistent rhythm. Beside her, Mr. Isaac, his face grim, relayed instructions to the dispatcher, his voice calm and steady despite the urgency of the situation. He knew that every second counted, that heatstroke was a relentless enemy, and that Mrs. Peterson's life hung precariously in the balance. As they approached Mrs. Peterson's house, a small white clapboard bungalow perched on a hill overlooking the town, they saw a lone figure standing on the porch, waving frantically. It was Sarah Miller, her face pale, her voice a desperate plea for help as they pulled up.
"She's inside," Sarah gasped, pointing towards the house. I tried to cool her down, but her voice trailed off, overcome with emotion.
Ms. Johnson, her hand resting reassuringly on Sarah's arm, offered a reassuring nod. "We've got this," she said, her voice firm, her gaze meeting Mr. Isaac's, a silent promise passing between them. They were in this together, fighting for Mrs. Peterson's life.
Mr. Isaac, his heart pounding in his chest, rushed into the house, Miss Johnson right behind him. The air inside was stifling, thick with the cloying heat that had permeated every corner of Sunnydale. The curtains were drawn, plunging the house into a semi-darkness that did little to mask the oppressive heat. They found Mrs. Peterson lying on the living room floor, her face flushed, her breathing shallow and rapid. Her skin, dry and hot to the touch, confirmed their worst fears. Heatstroke. Mr. Isaac, drawing upon his years of experience as a first responder, immediately sprang into action.
"We need to lower her body temperature fast," he said, his voice calm and steady despite the urgency of the situation. He grabbed a damp cloth from the sink and began sponging Mrs. Peterson's forehead, his touch gentle yet firm.
Miss Johnson, her initial shock giving way to a quiet determination, assisted Mr. Isaac, helping to loosen Mrs. Peterson's clothing and fanning her with a magazine, creating a meager breeze in the stifling air. As they worked, a sense of shared responsibility settled over them. The ambulance arrived, its siren a distant wail against the oppressive heat. Paramedics took over from Mr. Isaac and Miss Johnson, loading Mrs. Peterson onto a stretcher. As the ambulance pulled away, exhaustion washed over Mr. Isaac. He had faced countless emergencies, but the heat wave's silent threat was unsettling.
"She'll be all right, Mr. Isaac," her voice soft but steady.
Mr. Isaac nodded, drawing strength from her words, knowing they faced this together. The heat wave, in its relentless intensity, had exposed the vulnerabilities of their small town, the fragility of life in the face of nature's raw power. But it had also revealed their strengths, their resilience, and their unwavering commitment to one another. As the days turned into nights and the nights back into days, the people of Sunnydale adapted, drawing upon their reserves of strength, their ingenuity, and their deep-rooted sense of community. They had learned a valuable lesson, one etched in sweat and anxiety, in acts of kindness both large and small. Miss Johnson, her voice hoarse but her determination unwavering, used every available platform to reiterate the importance of preparation, of staying hydrated, of recognizing the signs of heat exhaustion, of checking on vulnerable neighbors. Her words, broadcast on the radio, printed in the local newspaper, shared on social media, became a lifeline in a time of crisis. The heat wave, in its ferocity, had forced them to confront their vulnerabilities, to acknowledge the limits of human endurance, but it had also revealed their capacity for compassion, their willingness to set aside their differences and come together as a community, to face the challenge head-on, united in their shared humanity. The long-awaited break in the heat wave arrived gradually, like a tentative sigh of relief. The oppressive heat began to recede, its grip loosening day by day. The air stirred with a gentle breeze, carrying the scent of rain. The streets of Sunnydale slowly came back to life. Children emerged, their laughter echoing through the streets. The heat wave revealed their strength and resilience. They faced the challenge head-on, emerging forever changed. Section 4, Scars of Summer. The heat wave left its mark on Sunnydale, not just on the landscape but on the hearts and minds of its residents. The memory of those scorching days and sleepless nights would linger long after the temperatures had returned to normal. The town gathered to mourn those they had lost, their absence felt keenly in the heart of their community. Mrs. Peterson, the kind-hearted widow, would no longer grace their streets with her gentle presence. Her passing cast a pall over their recovery, a reminder of the fragility of life. But amidst the grief, a spirit of resilience prevailed. The heat wave had forged an even stronger bond among the residents of Sunnydale. As the days grew shorter and the first leaves began to turn, signaling the arrival of autumn, a sense of cautious optimism settled over Sunnydale. The heat wave had been a crucible, testing their limits, exposing their vulnerabilities, but also revealing their strengths. The town council, spurred by the urgency of the heat wave, fast-tracked plans for a more resilient infrastructure, investing in renewable energy sources, improving the power grid, and creating more green spaces throughout the town. The experience had ignited a passion for environmental stewardship, a recognition that even small actions, when multiplied across their community, could have a significant impact. Recycling initiatives were implemented, community gardens flourished, energy-efficient appliances became the norm rather than the exception. The heat wave, in its intensity, had not broken them. Instead, it had forged them, strengthened their bonds, and ignited a shared determination to create a more resilient and sustainable future for their town. They had faced their fears, confronted their vulnerabilities, and emerged from the crucible stronger, more united, and more connected than ever before. The heat wave in its wake left Sunnydale forever changed. The idyllic summer days of laughter and leisure had given way to a deeper understanding of their vulnerability, a newfound respect for the raw power of nature. The experience had been a crucible, testing their limits, pushing them to the brink, but ultimately revealing their remarkable resilience. The scorching temperatures, the power outages, the fear that had gripped their hearts, these were now etched into the fabric of their collective memory, a stark reminder of the challenges they had faced, the losses they had endured, and the lessons they had learned. The heat wave had been a stark teacher, its lessons harsh but invaluable. They had learned the importance of heeding warnings, of preparing for the unexpected, of recognizing the interconnectedness of their community, and the profound strength that lay in unity and compassion. Yet, amidst the sobering realities, a spirit of hope endured. Sunnydale, true to its name, had weathered the storm. They had faced their fears, confronted their vulnerabilities, and emerged from the crucible stronger, more united, and more resilient than ever before. The heat wave had revealed the very best of Sunnydale, the countless acts of kindness, the selfless dedication of volunteers, the unwavering support neighbors extended to one another. They had learned that true strength lay not in their individual resilience but in their collective spirit, their willingness to come together, to help one another, to face whatever challenges lay ahead as one. The experience had forged an even deeper connection among them, a shared understanding of their shared humanity. They had laughed together, cried together, and ultimately, triumphed together. The heat wave, in its wake, had left behind a legacy of resilience, compassion, and an unshakable belief in the power of community. As Sunnydale moved forward, the lessons of that scorching summer remained deeply ingrained. The town, once known for its idyllic charm, now carried a quiet strength, a deep-seated awareness of the importance of preparedness and unity. The heatwave had been a wake-up call, a stark reminder that even the most idyllic of places were not immune to the forces of nature or the challenges of a changing world. It had forced them to confront their vulnerabilities, to acknowledge that the unexpected could and would occur. But more importantly, it had taught them that they were not alone. In the face of adversity, they had discovered the extraordinary power of community, the strength that came from standing together, shoulder to shoulder, united in their determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The heatwave had been a trial by fire, but Sunnydale had emerged from the flames not unscathed, but stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The experience had become a part of their story, a chapter that would forever shape their identity, reminding them that even in the face of adversity, hope endures, resilience prevails, and the human spirit, when united, has the power to overcome any obstacle.